Hey guys, it's Hunter. Welcome back to another video. So I was watching a video the other day from my friend Rhett Shull, and he'd originally titled this video something along the lines of "You don't need an expensive amp." He was referring to tube amps. They're worth it. Nothing feels or sounds like a proper tube amp, but they can be expensive. Except, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret, or rather a big, loud, ballsy secret. This is a Hughes Kettner TriAmp MK2 that I found at my local Guitar Center's used section, and it is the only amp you'll ever need. It's all tube, as you can clearly see, 100 watts, powered by 4 EL34s, and they seem to have been a little forgotten because they are criminally underpriced for what they are. The Hughes Kettner TriAmp MK2 came out in 2002. They were discontinued in 2014, they were built in Germany, cost about $3,000, and they were Hughes Kettner's flagship amp. But the thing with the TriAmp is it has 3 entirely separate and specially voiced preamps, each with 2 channels inspired by various iconic amplifiers. Amp 1 is your cleans, Amp 2 is your crunch, and Amp 3 is your high gain. Now this one's apparently had a very tough life. One of the bulbs is out, which Hughes Kettner have graciously sent over a replacement for. This one wasn't the prettiest, so it was a little cheaper, but these are generally about $1,000 on the used market, which is not cheap, but a boutique German flagship amp for about the same price as an EVH Iconic, and considering a new TriAmp MK3 is $4,500 for the tones you're getting, this is kind of a steal. So I'm gonna make it look real nice again, and then we're gonna hear and talk about why you wanna look into one of these before they get rediscovered. Okay, about 1,000,000 screws later, got the amp chassis pulled out, and I think I found the problem. So here's the working bulb. Looks nice, it's a nice bulb. And this here is the non-working bulb, and we seem to be missing part of it. It would appear that the reason this bulb doesn't work is when it is completely shattered. So there, mystery solved. This is absolutely disgusting. I have some cleaning to do. Oh, wow. So on the right, I obviously haven't cleaned. On the left, that's just a real quick wipe down. Fucking yikes, what the hell happened? Yeah, so there you go. The original chassis color is actually chrome, not, dust. Oh, this poor amp, dude. I'm not quite sure what this suspicious red-brown stuff is that I'm cleaning off the plexiglass. Is it shit? Is it dried blood? Which one is the better case scenario? Never mind, I don't want to know. Question withdrawn.
One eternity later.
Oh my god, dude. The inside of this amp is intense. Here's your reminder to not do any amp work if you don't know what you're doing. And also, if you have to open it up, discharge your caps first so you don't die. I can't even imagine what went into designing this thing. Thankfully, all we're doing is dealing with this little port right here. I've already disconnected the broken bulb, and now it's just time to replace it. Let's go ahead and plug in the new one. That's hilarious. Hughes Kettner had warned me to be kind of careful during installation because these bulbs are pretty delicate. But like, look how much packaging for this tiny part they've used. That's A+ customer service. Love that.
Eventually.
Alright, that took a little bit longer than I thought because you have to remove this rubber thing, otherwise the connector won't fit through. And it was sticky as fuck, just like the rest of the amp. I don't want to know. But here we go. Moment of truth. Hey! Let's go! I don't know if you can tell from this, but those are 2 different colors here. I've lowered the exposure so you can kind of see the one on the left is much brighter than the one on the right. But now that the glass is clean and both lights are working, it looks so much better. So now it's time to clean the head shell, finish this thing up, and put it back in. that was disgusting. I don't even want to know what this stain on the top was. When you get these new, they come with cleaning solution and a microfiber cloth that apparently went to waste with the previous owner. And before I even knew anything about guitar gear, the TriAmp was my dream amp because it lit up. Didn't know anything about the tones, didn't know anything about Alex Lifeson using them. I shit you not, it lit up. That was it. I'm a fucking moth. We move. Now that it looks the part, let's hear what it sounds like in the context of a full mix. And then we'll compare it to its successor, the $4,500 TriAmp MK3. Now, Hughes and Kettner amps have such a unique high-fidelity voice. They're really emphasized frequencies in the high ends and in the upper mids, which is generally awesome for cutting through in a mix setting. And so you already saw me using it a little bit, this Source Audio EQ2 pedal in the loop. They've sponsored today's video, and this is kind of a secret weapon that unlocks the most out of your amp by allowing you to really sculpt your tone by boosting certain frequencies, or in this case, taming harsh ones. And the Source Audio EQ2 is particularly cool because it's also MIDI programmable. You can save or recall up to 8 presets, and it's got a built-in noise gate, which is especially useful because this amp was made before built-in noise gates was really a thing. And I say 8 presets because it's got 2 inputs and outputs, so you can run it both in front of the amp and through the effects loop with 4 separate presets for each. That's even before you get into the app where you can really get into the frequency minutia to sculpt your tone. And it's MIDI controllable for up to 128 accessible presets. I'm using it in a very basic way, just cutting out some of the H&K's harsher frequencies for the isolated sound samples, but it's such a powerful piece of kit that's got loads of applications. Like if you up the output and boost the mids, you've got a tube screamer on the front end, and then you can apply a separate preset in the effects loop. For example, Gary Holtz of Slayer and Exodus uses an EQ to boost the low end of his Silver Jubilee for chunkier rhythm tones. So link to more details in the description because this is an invaluable addition to any setup. Alright, I know, TriAmps look kind of intimidating because they have so many knobs and buttons and the thing lights up, but trust me, these things are way less intimidating than they seem. You've got your power and standby switch, then you've got your global power amp controls, master volume and presence. Then for each of the 3 preamps, you've got volume, bass, middle, treble, and separate gain controls for channel A and for channel B. So that's why it looks so intense. You've got these 6 control knobs repeated 3 times, but it's fantastic for voicing each preamp, especially since each one is so different. Shared EQ would be an absolute nightmare. So let's run through the channels then. Channel 1A is Vintage Californian Clean, aka Fender Clean. Channel 1B is Vintage British Clean, a slightly dirtier Vox style clean. Channel 2A is Plexi-like. Channel 2B is kind of a dirtier modded Plexi. Channel 3A is British hot rodded, kind of JCM-like. And Channel 3B is modern Californian high gain, inspired by rectifier type tones. So a lot of modded Marshall style tones here, infused with that super clear, high fidelity Hughes Kettner flavor. The effects loop section is extremely overkill. It's super transparent, and using the controls on the back can be used in series or parallel, at instrument or at line level. There was also an additional MIDI module add-on that you could use to save and recall presets. I don't have that, so that makes this entire learn button absolutely useless. If 100 watts is too much, you can drop it down to half power, and it also had Hughes Kettner's red box built into the amp, which at the time was one of the original decent sounding cab simulated outputs. And look, I love how Hughes Kettner combines technology and tone, right? It's literally in their slogan, technology of tone, but this is definitely one of the areas where this amp is showing its age. We've come so far since 2002 when it comes to direct out. Compared to like the two-note stuff on rev amps, this is ancient, and it does not sound good. There's no internal dummy load, you can't load on your own custom impulse responses. You may as well just pair it up with a captor if you're planning on recording direct or running it to a PA. The included foot switch is also gloriously early 2000s. And you plug it into the amp using a damn 9-pin VGA cable. You know, the same connector you use to plug in CRT monitors into old desktops. But the tone is ridiculous. It's monstrous. It's so good. And so I first picked this up out of curiosity more than anything. I already have the TriAmp MK3 and I love that sound, and I just thought it would be cool to see how similar they were. They are not. It's crazy because I'd kind of written this off years ago. Before the MK3 was my dream amp, it was this MK2. And when it came out, I thought the MK3 was just an upgraded version of the MK2, but they're so different, not just from everything else out there, but from each other. So you can hear it, the Mark III is smoother and more refined, the Mark II is more belligerent, more wild. It's the saucier one, and those are just comparisons of the three like-for-like channels. The Mark III has an additional stupidly high-gain channel in the Amp 3 that replaces the Mark II's British hot-rodded channel. A lot of super modern amps are voiced to be really tight, really compressed, and I do like that. But this is more raw, it's less compressed, it's more dynamic. Compared to a lot of super modern amps in this current generation, it's more aggressive. That being said, as a modern metal guy, I would have loved a tight switch, especially in Amp 3 as well, not just Amp 1, but a tube screamer in front tightens this amp up very quickly. And Hunter and editing here with a quick updated aside. I was just at 42 Gear Street, met John Brown of Monuments, who's a big TriAmp fan. They're a staple in his studio. He agreed with my assessment about the Mark I versus the Mark III, but said actually the Mark I is his favorite because it's even more raw, even less compressed than the Mark II. The TriAmps have just gotten more gainy and more compressed over time, and the Mark I is the most just pissed off martially one out of all of them, but it doesn't light up, so, you know. Nah, I mean, they do look really dated, like that is a 90s ass amp, but you can also find them used for about $700, even less than the Mark II, so that might be worth looking into. Anyways, back to the video. The TriAmp Mark II is such a unique blend of old school aggression, high fidelity, and versatility that's just, I do not know of any other amp out there that does what this does. It's actually insane, and I thought that no resonance control might be an issue, but this thing has a huge amount of low-end chonk, and it's even louder than the Mark III, despite having 2 less power tubes. I don't know, man, the Mark III is not a quiet amp. This thing is just a beast. And yeah, a couple of things are a little dated, like the VGA foot switch is hilarious, and at some point I might try and replace the CCFL bulbs with LEDs, and it doesn't have the modern convenience features like the noise gate or the built-in boost custom tailored to each channel that the Mark III has, or the tube safety control that automatically biases tubes, or being able to select different sets of tubes per channel. The Mark III is bonkers, man. There's a lot of reasons to get it. On the Mark II, the shared EQ per preamp is also a little annoying. I find that the channels that I'm on the most, 3A and 3B, are super different, and so I have to voice Amp 3 for one or the other. The Mark III solves that by having even more knobs on the front panel. Overall though, especially for what it goes for, the Mark II is probably the greatest hidden tone gem on the market right now. People are sleeping on this amp when they really shouldn't be. The tones are outrageous, and especially if you pair it with an EQ too. Had to get that last little sponsor plug in there, but it's a serious PSA. An EQ pedal in the loop is a game changer. Try it if you haven't. Actually though, if you just like channels 1A and 3A, the Fender Clean and the British Hot Rod, that's literally what the also discontinued duotone is. That's the amp that Tommy Thayer uses, and you can sometimes find that for even less. But it would sound great with an EQ2 in the loop. Okay, I'll stop now. Yeah, I could ramble on about TriAmps all day. They're so good. They light up, and for whatever reason, the Mark IIs are an absolute steal on the used market right now. When I picked it up, my plan was to sell it right after the video, because I was like, who needs 2 TriAmps? Plans have changed, and the comments in the unboxing video convinced me I'm keeping it. So that'll do it for this video. Massive shout out to my amazing patrons for making this and every other video possible. Their names are up on the screen right now. Consider joining them if you like what I do. You can also join as a channel member or pick up some high integrity merch. It's really comfortable, and every little thing actually really helps support the channel. Social media, merch, and links to all the gear used will be in the description. As always, thank you so much for watching. You've been awesome, and I will see you for the next video.